Hello, everyone, and welcome to Georgina Life on this first week of May. And of course, I am here with my wonderful co-hosts, the dashing and debonair Grant Peckford and the beautiful and talented Jeannie Faria. How are you both? Jeannie, how are you?
I'm doing well. Here we are, right? Another show, another lockdown show, but we're still moving right along, right?
Exactly. What about you, Grant? How are you doing?
Oh, please. I'm just waiting to have a conversation about my mental health. I can't wait. You know, it's all good. It's become a way of life now. You know, we do what we can. You know, I go upstairs from my little apartment, get a breath of fresh air, then I come back down. You know, it's good.
It's certainly different. And, you know, because we focus so much on all the mental health issues and what's happening and responses to it. And one of the things that came across I think, Grant, you sent that article was this, and I ask you guys this, is do you feel a pressure to be upbeat all the time? As opposed to just kind of really feeling how you're feeling, which might be kind of like, you know?
Yeah, I think sometimes I do. I mean, this week, especially being Mental Health Week, it's true. I've been thinking about that, and sometimes I think I kind of feign happiness. You know, it's pretty weird, isn't it?
Almost like we're obligated. You know, what do you think, Grant?
Oh, very definitely. I mean, look at me. Like I could never be allowed not to present all of this. And I've talked to Gary Durenfeld about it many, many times. For me, you know, when people ask me how I'm feeling, and for me to even suggest for a moment that I'm not right, that just shuts the conversation down because I don't know what to say to me because I'm laughing and giggling and being foolish all the time. So yeah, it is an enormous pressure. Yeah. Especially for the loved ones around us too, because I don't want to drag anybody down with me.
And Gary always talks about that part about being authentic, right? About really sharing what it really is. And yet I think in a societal way, almost, we feel the pressure to always be, I'm fine, I'm good, it's all great.
Yes.
But we're in a pandemic, so how can that be?
I know. I think that's really true. And the funniest thing is, too, as a mom, and I mean, Mother's Day is coming up, too, on the 9th of May. So we have to think about that. But as a mom, I'm sort of the go-to person, right? Mom, is this done? Mom, when's dinner? Mom. And there's that part of, you know, the equation, too. So I'm trying to keep it together with the mental health thing, just being a mom, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you have your mom with you as well, right?
Yeah, you know, it's certainly been challenging because you know, as we go through this now into the next, you know, ongoing part of all this, you know, a big day out for my mom is when I put her in the car and take her to the drive-through McDonald's for a coffee, because those are our options, you know, on the way to get groceries, right? So there's no more nice lunches that take 2.5 hours and, you know, all of that, right? So yeah, I love having her here. I'm blessed that I have my mother. And I was thinking about this show. I'm talking about Mother's Day, and I'm just mindful too that this could be a very difficult day for some people because it can be triggering for them. There's losses. Some people do not have their mothers anymore. So there's grief that comes. Some people are in difficult relationships, so they're not maybe connected to their families of origin anymore. So I'm always kind of mindful of that piece. And if that's the case for any of our viewers, just be really good to yourself and give yourself lots of love, because we love you and we know it can be a difficult day.
It is so important. It's so important because there is, for someone who has lost my mother 30-something years ago, that void is never filled, ever. You know, there isn't anyone to go to and say, well, Mom, or I'm going to pick up the phone and call my mom just to share this with her, because I'm still not taking her advice. It doesn't matter how old or young I am. But there is there is that. And it's funny, you know, as I was getting ready this morning, and I've often said this to viewers and to my friends and colleagues, sometimes when I'm actually getting camera ready with the makeup and all of that, I see her looking back at me. And, you know, first that's a little scary, but I do think we take comfort from that. So yeah, Jeannie, to your point, viewers, cut yourself some slack, be really kind to yourself, and just celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And listen, I wanted to just mention something really important because speaking of mental health, our friend at Whole Family Health Food, Kristen Shiner, she's holding a webinar on women and mental health. And that's on Wednesday, May the 12th at 3:30 p.m. So it's going to be really important. It's her and her friend, Christina Guglielmi. Say that 10 times, right? Thankfully, my husband's Italian. Christina Guglielmi. They're going to talk about women and mental health. And Kristen herself is a holistic nutritionist, and her friend Christina is as well, but she's also the mom of 3 young children. She is an expert in nutrition, natural health products, and she's a certified yoga instructor. So that's a really important thing. If you're around, join the webinar. You can register. There will be information at the bottom of the screen all about that. So I think it's really important that, you know, we support our local businesses and talk about mental health. Really, really important. And Jeannie, you were talking about the drive-through. Oh my gosh. So Sienna Senior Living, Cedardale Lodge, partnered with McDonald's to celebrate the opening of the very first McDonald's by Ray Kroc in 1955. Can you imagine?
Yes. Wow.
Oh my God.
So they had like this little drive-through window. I know they had a drive-through window. We've got some pictures of that. And so the seniors they all received a free Happy Meal from McDonald's. I mean, that's got to say a lot for their mental health. And how do you feel about that, Jeannie?
Well, first of all, I love the idea that they made their own drive-through window and like could go up with their walkers to get their Happy Meal, because I think that creates some fun. You know what I mean? And certainly it's been difficult as well for our elders and our seniors. So I just think it's adorable. And really, they're the first generation that probably always had McDonald's, because in 1955, it means that they were, you know, they got in on that right at the beginning.
I think that's amazing. I can't imagine, but it must have been so good for them because, you know, think about it. We're all holed up and they probably are all holed up as well. They haven't really had a chance to get out, and going through a drive-through. I mean, we actually all piled in the car and went to a Starbucks not long ago and said to each other, "Can you believe this is an outing?" This is an outing. I can't believe this.
all the time needed for the PPE. My gosh, I'm exhausted by the time I get gloved and hand sanitized and wears the mask. And it's like, oh my God, this is too much work. I'm just going back to watch TV.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
More binge watching.
That's right. And more Netflix, more Rogers, I say.
Binge our own show.
Right. And listen, guys, I just want to talk about some of the stuff that's on the show today. We have the Alzheimer's Society of York Region. We've got Autism Unplugged Learning Center. We've got the Canadian Mental Health Association. We've got Hospice Georgina. And we've even got this really cool guy called Bentley the Comfort Dog. And everybody's going to love Bentley the Comfort Dog. I just know it. So we really have a great show coming up today. It's all about mental health, and it's also about celebrating our moms. Whether or not they're here, you know, they deserve to be celebrated. And honestly, I think it's going to be fun. What do you guys think? It's going to be fun, right?
Great.
So much fun.
Full show. Fabulous. Fabulous.
Absolutely. So listen, Georgina, don't go away. Lots more coming up on Georgina Life.
Hi, it's Marty Taylor from Wellness Canada. For Mental Health Week, I want you to know that when we change our mindset, we change our lives and mental health. But our brains don't just take commands from our words. It also takes suggestion from our body. Do this with me for a moment. Sit up straight, shoulders back, take in a deep breath, and just for a moment, try to be sad. You can't, because your brain doesn't connect sadness with this pose. How do you go back to feeling the emotion of sadness? Slouch. So chin up.
Hi, I'm Kristen Shiner, the owner of Whole Family Health Food. And for Mental Health Week, I have an important message for you. You know, when you're driving your car at 120 kilometers an hour down the highway, you tend to burn through your fuel really fast. And so I just want you to think about yourself during a time of heightened stress. You're burning through your nutrients really fast. So it makes sense that you may need a little extra support right now. So if that looks like remembering breakfast or taking that lunch break, it's really important that you fuel yourself so that you have the energy to get through these stressful times. I'm rooting for you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Carter. I'm one of the co-vice presidents with the Keswick Optimist Club. And for Mental Health Week, I wanted to share a couple of words with you. During these unprecedented times, it's more important than ever that you open up and share your feelings and lend an ear to a friend who may be struggling. Be there for one another. And remember that asking for help doesn't make you weak. It actually proves that you're strong. And remember to think like an optimist, because there's always something to be grateful for in every day.
Welcome back to the show, Georgina. So our next guest is part of an organization that has helped literally thousands and thousands of Canadians through difficult times. We are in a difficult time, and here to talk about what that looks like is Rebecca Shields, the CEO of the Canadian Mental Health Association. Rebecca, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be back.
It's really wonderful to meet you. And honestly, in these trying and difficult times, my first question to you would be, so many people are struggling and are feeling very alone. What kind of advice would you give to these people, and who can they reach out to for help?
You know, we've really seen with the pandemic an increase in loneliness. Not only is it social isolation, but people feeling Zoom fatigue, like they just don't even want to reach out. And, you know, that it's both, right? It's like they can't reach out because there's a physical distancing. And then there's this kind of feeling of like, I'm too tired to even reach out. And they're seeing their anxiety and stress and worsening mental health and well-being. They're just not feeling like themselves. And so when you get to that stage, you know, there's two things. First of all, when you're feeling like you're not yourself, that's when you have to reach out. So of course, there's the CMHA is here always. And there's also the COPE line, 310 COPE, which is if you're in crisis, but maybe you just need somebody to talk to. And that's when you can call the CMHA or other lines to really connect in with people. You can always reach out to your friends and family. Remember, if you're feeling that way, so is everybody else. You might just be helping somebody else by reaching out to them. And sometimes when we feel like we're helping somebody else, it's easier to help ourselves. So I think the clear message is, if you need help, you've got to reach out because you probably needed it 3 weeks ago. So let's not wait any longer.
Oh, Rebecca, I love that. I love that. Yes, you needed it 3 weeks ago. That is so key. I hate statistics and people's mental health, but I did read a few weeks ago that stats are saying that about 38% of Canadians are reporting that there's been a decline in their mental health. Does that stat seem low? Does that surprise you?
I would say, yeah, it's surprising, but it's not surprising. First of all, let's talk about what that's talking about. We have seen through the waves of the pandemic, people's mental health declining. So, and we've seen it particularly in vulnerable population, women have gone from about 18% feeling anxiety up to 25%. We've seen it with especially families with children, incredible anxiety and depression. Of course, our frontline staff, our essential workers also feeling that traumatic stress disorder, that's going up. Our youth are struggling. They're now again, schools are closed. They're feeling the burden. More and more we're feeling the burden. So it is a time where we're seeing incredible decline in people's well-being. In fact, 80% of Canadians don't feel confident that their wellness is going up, and they actually report that it's going down. So we need to have things in place to make sure that we can recover, because mental health is health. It's all connected. So if our brains and our bodies aren't good, there's no recovery. So, and that's why we need to talk about this. And I'm so glad to be on the air and saying, look, we need to think about this today, because just like we need to eat right and exercise for our bodies, we also need to really have good, what we call mental hygiene, right? Good practices, getting out there. Beautiful Georgina, getting out to those trails and walking and, do those visits and giving those calls that Linda talked about. Like, all that is so important, and we can't give up.
Yeah, Rebecca, it's interesting because you talked about all the different sort of populations, the youth, our seniors, the frontline workers. So, and you talk about putting something in place. How do we start putting something in place? Because I think, like you said, so many of us are feeling this sort of unprecedented this experience, right?
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to assure people that there are services in place, and governments have begun to ramp up now. I'm the first one. I was at the federal caucus, and I've been talking to the provincial government, and I've been saying, look, we need more investment today. We need more investment, but there's the bounce back program that's free. There's the supportive counseling line from CMHA, free and available. Anybody can call. We've got services. It's there. We don't want anybody thinking that we're not going to take care of you or that you're going to fall through the cracks, because it's so important. And that's really what it's about. It's about communities coming together, and CMHA is an active partner in that.
I really like the bounce back program, but there's also something called, I think, mental health in motion. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Thanks so much. Mental health in motion is actually a way for us to get out there and get active, like we were talking about, but also make sure that we're making the road a little bit better for the person coming behind. So mental health in motion is CMHA's key fundraiser, and it goes directly to support programs for youth and vulnerable populations. So why youth right now? As you know, our students, our youth, they're the ones whose jobs have been lost. They're the ones whose school has been cut off, socially isolated from their friends. So we need to come together for mental health in motion, come together and raise money to make sure that they aren't left behind.
Rebecca, we're running out of time. Really quick, I know that people are watching. How do they get in touch with your organization?
Look, go to our website, cmha-yr.on.ca. But of course, it's probably easier to just Google us or call 1-866-345-0183. We'll be there to answer your call.
That's amazing. That's amazing. All right. Thank you so very much for this important information, Georgina. Hang on. We're coming right back. There's more on Georgina Life.
Welcome back, Georgina. We are so excited to be joined today by who we refer to as our own local social worker, Gary Durenfield. Welcome to the show. So good to see you, sir.
With you again, folks.
It is so great to see you, Gary. And listen, I have a question for you right off the bat. Sometimes I'm okay, and sometimes I'm not okay. Does that mean anything? Should I be concerned, and what should I do?
Well, what should you do? First of all, I congratulate you for acknowledging when you are, when you're not. Mental health starts with that kind of mindfulness, being able to self-monitor, figuring where you are at in your spectrum of mental health. So you're going to have some days that are absolutely better than others and some days that are not. In being mindful, we may want to track that. Are our better days more frequent than our less better days? And as we kind of track that, as we monitor ourselves, we can figure out whether or not we're slipping, whether or not we're doing okay, whether or not we actually need support.
Gary, we're living in such bizarre times right now. And I think there are people who never really identified with having any mental health struggles that are now really struggling. So, what do you do when you realize that this is getting to you?
Oh, excellent question. And you know what? That's 90% of us. I'm going to include myself in that. I have days where I'm absolutely down. I have days where I'm worried, anxious, so out of character for me. So what we want to do is, when we're recognizing our mental state is not where we want it to be, own it. Don't deny it. Own it. There's nothing wrong with owning it. And with that, we want people to think in terms of reach out, talk with someone, be authentic, Be transparent. The degree to which we own it, we can then deal with it. We can address it. We can normalize it. We can validate ourselves, and we can gain support. So I talk about reaching out when you need that help, when you recognize it. Then there are those of us who may see it in someone else. Maybe they're slipping, maybe they're edgy, maybe their self-care isn't where it should have been. Reach in so we can reach out, we can reach in. And then within our own home, it may be our partner, it may be a child. I talk about reaching across. It's all about connection. When we talk about mental health, the single most helpful, curative, supportive factor is that connection. And we've lost it in this pandemic. Okay? We've lost it. So we actually need to make those efforts. That's helpful.
You know, and Gary, thank you for sharing that, because we spoke about this months and months ago, being people of a certain personality and how challenging this whole isolation piece is. And, you know, it really is common sense. If you feel like you're slipping, there's got to be someone in your life you can reach out to. So I think it's a key piece for our viewers to understand it's okay to not be okay. But secondly, as you say, reach across, reach out, get that support, whatever that looks like, because it will look different for all of us.
It will look different for all of us, for sure. I just want people to own their mental health and be responsible for it. It's, you know, we used to say, oh, shame on you, let's deny it, let's hide it, and that would make matters worse. We know, I'm telling you, I deal with some depression. I deal with some anxiety, the result of this pandemic. It's new for me. There's nothing shameful. Let's connect.
Great. So Gary, we've got about 30 seconds left. If you had to leave our viewers with one tip, what would that be?
Self-care. Take care of yourself. You know, just this morning, I posted on my Facebook page, shower, brush your teeth, wash your hair.
Teeth.
For some, that's good enough.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I got to cut you off. I saw that on Facebook. Gary, thanks so much for joining us. And Georgina, sit tight. So much more on today's Georgina Life.
I'm Chantel from Jericho Youth Services. I just wanted to leave a little message for you for Mental Health Week. Remember to go outside, eat healthy snacks, and if you need to talk, find a parent or a friend to listen to you. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Stacy. I'm with the Alzheimer's Society of York Region, and this Mental Health Week, I want you to remember how important you are. Self-care, get out for walks, make those phone calls to friends. Just please remember to take care of yourself.
Hi, I'm Karen J. Moore, and I'm from Hospice Georgina. I'm Executive Director, and I provide psychotherapy to clients with complex grief. And my message for Mental Health Awareness Week is to ask for help. You don't need to do it alone, and to have a self-care approach that incorporates the mind, body, and spirit.
Welcome back, Georgina. So we're here to talk with our next guest about some really unique challenges that some of our members of our community are facing. And she's here from Autism Unplugged, Robin Constantopoulos. Welcome to Georgina Life.
Hi, Jeannie. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.
Robin, I wanted just to start off and congratulate you on your Georgina Advocate Reader's Choice Award that Autism Unplugged has won for mental health consultant, which is quite an honor. So congratulations. And I wanted to ask you how that looks for Autism Unplugged. I mean, a lot of people may not know that is part of what you do.
Right. And so we were actually a little surprised because we weren't really thinking about this, but yes, absolutely. So we cater here to all members of the community, not just children on the spectrum or youth on the spectrum, with our cognitive behavioral therapy. So that deals with anything from ADHD to anxiety, depression, any type of any type of mental health issue that is going to require someone to kind of walk through what they're going through in that moment. And we can kind of guide them to, into a better state of mind, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it does. I love the way that you put that, Robin. I'm a big fan of mental health issues sort of as the umbrella, because that's a great way to start the conversation, and we can go from there. What I would like to ask you, we've had a thread around the self-care piece, and we know that parenting, period, and I'm not a parent, but I understand that that is a full-time job, regardless of whether some mental health issues come into play. So how do we support those parents with the self-care? Like, what can you share with us that you would share with a parent who's saying, Robin, I can't do it?
Right. And so there are lots of things that we can do for our youth, for our teens, our school age kids, and even for the younger kiddos. Keeping them really engaged, keeping their sleep routines together, dividing their workspace versus their sleep space, making sure they're different things. And the routines are super important, and lots of social interaction. That socio-emotional piece is really, really big for all children right now.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, it's funny you said that, because I think in the beginning of this, there was that kind of joke, everybody's going to work in their pajamas and their office is their living room, and but you're right. It's important that we have routine and that we have those designated spaces where we do our play, where we do our school work, where we, that kind of thing. So that's really great advice.
Yeah.
And, keeping the kids engaged. And I know it's difficult right now because everyone's virtual, especially here in Ontario. We're in lockdown right now. But that social piece and limiting the screen time is a really big key. The kids, especially, our adolescent kids, they can get really caught up in social media, and it can kind of maybe put negative thoughts into their head that maybe they didn't need to see if they hadn't have had so much screen time. So I think, yes, it's super important because we need online learning, and we need to maintain those systems, but also I think it's also very important that we're getting exercise, we're getting outside, getting some fresh air, right? There's nothing wrong with sitting on the front porch and reading a book, right? Like, let's go back to basics. It's great for your mental health and great for your emotional well-being.
That's really true. Sure. And I wanted to ask you as well. I mean, some people are saying, well, everything's closed and I don't know where to go. But I mean, you're there, right? You're continuing to be open and you're there for people. Is that correct?
That's correct. So we do fall under health and social services, which means that we are open. We are under very strict guidelines here. We're taking temperatures at the front door, asking the COVID screens, not allowing anyone to come in to the building. We're not accepting visitors right now. All of our staff are cleaning, right? So, we're doing all the things, but we're here. We absolutely are here. It's difficult to keep up. I'm not going to sugarcoat that because there is a very great need right now in our community. But yes, we're doing it.
Yeah.
Good. And you're taking care of yourself, correct?
Yeah. Sleep is the number one thing, for a parent, even myself of two children on the spectrum, one on each end of the spectrum. Sleep is the number one thing, right? Your body, the cortisol in your, or the adrenaline in your body can't keep up if it doesn't have enough sleep, right? So we really need that. We really need that piece taken care of.
Robin, how can people get a hold of you or find out more about your organization after watching this segment?
So we're on Woodbine Avenue in the Brower building. A lot of people recognize the Brower building. They can also go on our website at autismunplugged.ca.
Wonderful. All right, Georgina, you heard her. It's back to basics, so stay tuned. There's more coming up on Georgina Life.
Welcome back, Georgina. We're really happy to have our next guest with us because caregivers are so important, and the Alzheimer's Society of York Region knows this exclusively. So welcome, Stacey Mendonça. You are a social worker, and we're so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So Stacey, you know, it's hard enough being a caregiver and facing all of those trials and you know, that the stress of that and the demands of that, but to do that during this pandemic time, that must be affecting people.
It's definitely been hard. You know, caregiving at the best of times can be very isolating. And then when you add COVID in, when you can't go out and see your friends or your coffee breaks that you're used to or your walking groups, respites are closed or at very minimal capacity. So a lot of people are having to figure out leaving work or trying to work from home with their loved ones there. So it's definitely been a struggle.
So, Stacey, I just want to jump on that. Can I ask, are you finding that caregivers are at least aware of the fact that they're a little bit in trouble, that they need perhaps more resources? Are they transparent about that?
Most of the time, yes. I think they recognize that there's, you know, often gaps in the system when it comes to supporting caregivers, especially of those living with dementia. And I think COVID has highlighted that for a lot of them. You know, their loved ones are declining because they're not getting their normal stimulation from their programming and things like that. So I think we're seeing a lot more caregivers reach out and ask for that support, which has been wonderful.
Wonderful. Fantastic.
What kind of supports can they reach out for? Like, how can people who are finding this now, the isolation overwhelming and the sort of burden of the emotional burden of this, how can they get some support?
Absolutely. You know, it's often very time consuming to go and find those resources. So I definitely recommend contact us at the Alzheimer's Society. We cover the whole region. We know what's there. But there's a lot of, you know, virtual programming going right now. And it's not just computers, because I know sometimes not everyone has internet. We also have phone groups as well, especially support groups. You know, we have multiple languages for our support groups. We have specific classes like for long-term care or for young onset or spousal support groups. There's lots of education running right now. We're adapting like everyone else is. So I definitely say connect with us because we have connections to different resources right now.
Well, that was one of my questions too. I wondered what kinds of tips that you would have for caregivers out there.
One of the big ones is if you have resources, don't be afraid to ask for help. I know a lot of people, they have friends, they have family who will offer help, but they're not sure how to accept that or what to do with that. I always say go for practical. If you need groceries, call and ask your friend, hey, are you going to the grocery store this weekend? Pick me up these things. Hey, I know you've had your first vaccination shot. I've got a medical appointment. Can you come sit with Dad for 2 hours while I run out and get that done? So think of the practical things you can get support for and ask for that.
Yeah, one of the themes that we've been kind of hearing from service providers is, you know, reach out, reach across, reach for that support so that you kind of break that isolation that's happening right now.
Absolutely. And if you don't have the time or the ability, we have lots of friends and neighbors that'll call us and say, hey, my friend, you know, can't talk on the phone with her husband at home. Here's her email address. Can you reach out and arrange a time to meet with her and things like that? So it doesn't have to be that person. Friends and, you know, community members can reach out on behalf and we will make that connection.
I think this is the time for caregivers to be a little bit selfish.
Absolutely.
And really recognize that, you know, yes, they've chosen to take on this responsibility, but got to look after ourselves.
Absolutely. If you can't take care of yourself, you cannot support your loved one. You have to be the priority.
Daisy, how can people get a hold of you for more information?
Absolutely. So the best way, we have our head office phone number, which will be on the screen, as well as our email address, our info at Alzheimer-York, and our website also has a lot of resources as well.
Thank you so much for this information, so important. And Georgina, don't go away. Lots more coming up on Georgina Life. Welcome back, Georgina. When we think about grief support, we often think about a friendly face or a helping hand. But what about a helping paw? Well, you're in luck because we have just that thing. We welcome Don Finlayson, Senior Funeral Director, Lakeland Funeral and Cremation Center, along with his co-worker, Bentley, the comfort dog. Welcome, Don and Bentley, to Georgina Life.
Well, good morning, and thank you for having us.
Good morning. So I'm here just loving this animal, and he's not just good looking, but this dog has a purpose. He's got a job, doesn't he?
He does. Bentley is our comfort dog here at the funeral home. He's an ambassador. He's a greeter. He just is a fantastic addition to the team.
Well, my question is, how did he become an addition to the team? Was this your idea? Was this a funeral home's idea? How did he come to be?
Well, Linda, the story probably began a number of years ago when my father-in-law was in hospital, and the hospital had a therapy dog or a sport dog that came to visit in the room. And I noticed very quickly that when the dog entered the hospital room, the entire atmosphere of the room changed. It calmed right down. It was such a fantastic distraction from the stress that all of our family was going through at that time. And I thought to myself that a funeral home is a very similar environment, and a dog might be a real good addition to the team. So the hunt began for a good dog. And ironically, he was found right next door at our local Humane Society.
Oh, that's amazing. And so I did a bit of research because I thought to myself, funeral homes, you got people triggered with grief. There's mental health issues on top of that. So all of those really difficult, big emotions that we have to get through in a really difficult time. What a perfect place to have this kind of animal that really can help people get through a necessary but difficult process, right? Transition.
You know what? You're exactly right. And I think certainly walking into a funeral home is a daunting task for most. And many have been at hospital or the nursing home for the last days or weeks, or in current times, maybe they haven't been there at all because of COVID restrictions. And they're very stressed, and seeing a dog unexpectedly really is an icebreaker and a real warm welcome for folks when they get here.
I bet. I mean, I know that you live in Georgina, and I'm assuming that Bentley goes home with you. So is he kind of a celebrity then? Maybe not at home, but I don't know. Does he get letters?
Well, you know what? He does. It's amazing. In Lindsay, where our funeral home is, he really is a bit of a celebrity. People, once they meet him, we have families that pop in every couple of weeks or months and just come by and pat him and play with him for 5 minutes. We have a lady that probably every quarter brings a little stuffed animal by, and he got treat packages at Christmas. It's ridiculous. And we have surveys that go out to each family, and consistently the feedback is fantastic for Bentley. Often better feedback for Bentley than it is for me. So that's a good thing.
He's also very well dressed. He's got that beautiful tie on, so he's in his formal workwear.
Well, that's exactly right. We much like myself, sometimes when he's working, he wears a tie. When he's relaxed, he wears a bandana, and
Don,
he's well presented.
How can people see more pictures of Bentley and find out about him?
Well, thank you. He actually has a following on either Facebook or Instagram. He's Bentley the Comfort Dog, and it's crazy.
Don,
quite a following.
I hate to cut you off, but we got to go. We want to see more of Bentley, but thank you so much. And Georgina, don't go away. We have much more coming up on Georgina Life.
So this is Mental Health Week. And why are we celebrating this week? Why are we recognizing it? Because now more than ever, we realize the importance of mental health and well-being. So what can you do? Get out there and get walking, talk to your friends, get some sleep, eat right, take care of each other. We're all going to get through this pandemic together. And if you need help, the Canadian Mental Health Association, serving York and South Simcoe, is your partner. Reach out to us because we're there for you so that you can be there for you and your loved ones. Thanks and have a great Mental Health Week.
Hi there, I'm Robin Constantopoulos from Autism Unplugged Learning Center in Keswick. And we hope that in this Mental Health Week, you are getting some fresh air and staying safe and getting lots of sleep to take care of your mental health.
Welcome back, Georgina. I'm really excited to have our next guest on the show. She is the Executive Director of Hospice Georgina, and her name is Karen J. Moore. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
I'm really excited about this because I really believe that it's so important to take care of ourselves. And by taking care of ourselves, we take care of our mental health in so many different ways. What kind of tips do you have about caring for ourselves? I mean, as hospice executive director, you must get a lot of people asking you about, how do I take care of myself? What do I do? Where do I go?
Absolutely. That's a great question. So the first thing I would say is ask for help, that we don't need to do it alone. There's a lot of organizations like hospice that are out there and willing to help people. And the second one is to manage the mind, body, and spirit. And so I have some tips for each of those areas.
Oh, I'm excited. What kinds of tips do you have about those areas? So important.
So number one would be manage the mind and self-talk. Fill your body and mind with positive and encouraging thoughts and positive affirmations. Start and end each day with a gratitude attitude. So making sure that you're grateful at the beginning and end of each day. And choosing the shows you watch on TV wisely. So maybe a comedy, something that will make you laugh, or something new that you want to learn. And watching how much time you spend watching the news. So once a day will do, and you're all caught up. And then for the body, I would say exercise and fresh air. So if you have limited ability, you can, open your curtains to let sunshine in, open the windows, stand on your back deck, back porch, backyard. And if you can go for a bike ride or a walk, that's even better. If you have a plant, a pot that you can plant some seeds in and watch them grow, then we call that earthing. Digging in the dirt is good for you. And as far as the soul goes, laughter and music are the best medicine for the soul. So pick your favorite playlist and sing out loud, sing in the shower, or sing all around the house and dance. And if you can find some quiet time for meditation, maybe pick a favorite chair in your house or sit by the water or in nature, and surround yourself by positive-minded people. So
I love it. Karen, how can people get a hold of you?
They can go to our Facebook page or our website, so www.hospicegeorgina.com, or they can give us a call, 905-722-9333.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much good information. And Georgina, don't go away. There's lots more coming up on Georgina Life. Guys, I mean, those tips that were given to us about our mental health, unbelievable. And what I loved was that people were talking about not only self-care, but reaching out to others during this time. And I think that's so important. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the messaging is always, from a lot of our guests was always about reaching out, reach across, right? Make those connections, break that isolation, because that never does any good for any of our mental health. And we are in isolation, literally, quarantined, and, so it's really important, I think, having the conversation and not being ashamed, not letting any stigma that kind of is floating out there be a part of your decision making, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, Jeannie, everything you said is under that umbrella of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, It really is. It's all part of really making sure that you're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think so. And honestly, it really is about, that sort of hashtag get real about how you feel.
Love it.
Because it's
Love it.
so true. You got to get real about it. You have to face it, understand it a little bit, maybe. And if you're having a hard time understanding it, reach out, because it's not a weakness to say that you need help and you need to reach out.
Yeah.
So important. So
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah, definitely. And just in the article that I sent you ladies over the weekend, it's like, name it, call it something. Once you name it, you own it, and then you work with it. So rather than pretend that, oh no, I'm just having, a bad day, tell it like it is, call it what it is. And
exactly. And don't forget about your mother. I know, Jeannie, you wanted to talk a little bit about mommy too.
Well, in all the ways that our mothers are there for us, in all the big, huge ways and the small ways. So I'm gonna put something out there, and I'm gonna see what you guys respond with. Right? Have a bad day at work?
Call your mom.
Call your mom.
Get a promotion?
Call your mom.
Call your mom.
Someone hurts your feelings?
Call your mom.
Call your mom.
Someone makes you mad?
Call your mom.
Oh, yes.
Your kid is sick?
Call your mom.
You can't remember how to cook something?
Call your mom.
You got some good gossip to share?
Call your mom.
You're sick.
Call your mom.
Oh, always call my mom. She was a nurse.
There you go, Grant. Even better. Huge accomplishment.
Call your mom.
Call your mom. So moms, we love you. Thank you. I'm a mom. I love being a mom, and it's all good.
I agree. And I know, Grant, you always talk about your mom so fondly. So happy Mother's Day to all the moms that are here and all the moms who are in somewhere else looking down upon all of us, right?
Right.
Oh, Linda, please. I hope there's sometimes I don't want her looking down.
Well, listen, guys, we've come to the end of another episode. Thank both of you so much for being here. And thank you at home for everything. Thank you for watching. And remember, call your mom and do some self-care and take care of yourselves as well. So listen, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you next time on the next Georgina Life. Stay well. Bye.